Good afternoon to our international viewers, and thank you for joining us once again. It is 6 o'clock, and that means it's time for our daily English Flash News edition. And as usual, I'm Daniel Cook, your host. The OSCE has published its final report on the local elections in Albania, which took place on June 21st this year. Among other things, their report states that politicization of the state institutions undermined the effective administration of the electoral process. The final report by the OSCE Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights, or ODIHR, recommends a review of the legislation in order to ensure alignment with the OSCE commitments and the international standards for democratic elections, as well as enhancing the independence, impartiality, and professional capacity of the election commissions. Published on September 8th, the report notes that amendments to the electoral law addressed some long-standing ODIHR recommendations, including the promotion of women candidates. However, they recommend that the legislation be reviewed in order to eliminate gaps and ambiguous elements. A review of the electoral dispute resolution procedures is also recommended, so as to provide all stakeholders with an effective means of redress. While the report does note that the Central Election Commission generally operated in a transparent manner, it recommends that efforts be made to enhance the independence and impartiality and professional capacity of all the election commissions. It further recommends increasing the transparency of the tabulation process, including entitling all observers to receive copies of result protocols. The campaign environment was considered to be largely peaceful, with respect for fundamental freedoms. However, a blurring of the line between the state and parties was noted, as well as widespread allegations of pressure on the voters. The report recommends that the authorities take more resolute steps to prevent, identify, and investigate and prosecute these violations. Measures are also recommended to enhance the transparency of campaign financing. Overall, the election day was given a positive assessment, but many cases of group voting and other important irregularities were observed. Prime Minister Rama received the ambassadors of several Western countries in his office today, including the U.S. Ambassador Donald Lu, the German, French, Italian, and British ambassadors, and the head of the OSCE presence, Florian Raunig. Media presence was not allowed in the meeting, but according to sources, they discussed the latest political developments in the country and the necessary reforms for bringing Albania closer to the European Union. It has been learned that the primary purpose of the meeting was to discuss the arrest of the Socialist MP and the resignation of another. The meeting lasted for more than 2 hours. The review of the budget for 2015 caused debates between the majority and the opposition at today's meeting of the Economic Commission. The budget review was approved with only the votes of the majority, and the Budget's Normative Act will cut the revenue plan by 22.4 billion lek. The Minister of Finance informed the members of Parliament that the government did not collect the revenue that they expected, not because of tax evasion, but because of positive developments in the domestic economy. According to him, the revenue was smaller than the expected because of internal growth of the agricultural and energy sectors, and because of the falling interest rates in the banking system. The head of the Economic Commission, Arion Bratze, asked for intervention in the cigarette market, saying that there is a great deal of informality to be found there. But former Financial Minister Ridvan Bode argued that this claim is ridiculous and should not be taken seriously. He said that the budget cuts are due only to the government's failed policies. This statement, of course, inspired further debate, and the Socialist MPs reminded the former minister that during his term, he himself made a revenue plan cut of $1.5 billion. The operation against informality was considered to be an efficient opportunity to increase the state revenue. Today, Prime Minister Rama met with local government leaders and representatives of the United Nations Development Program, or the UNDP, to sign a cooperation agreement for technical assistance. This is a project funded by the UNDP to assist the actual situation of the municipalities and to provide help in building development policies. Rama said that the new territorial division is a state-forming process that hopes to take the inherited administrative units and transform them into more economically developmental units. He said, "It is our mission to give the Albanian people a local government based upon the European standards. The UNDP has made the best auditing agency available to determine the situation of the local units. We must minimize losses and maximize revenue." The Prime Minister expressed the readiness of his cabinet to work toward decentralization. The agreement signed between the central and local governments foresees technical assistance from international companies for evaluating the local capacities. The Prime Minister of Local Government, Bledi Chuchi, introduced 7 competences that the municipalities will have under the new administration. First, kindergartens. Second, maintenance and ownership of rural roads. Third, fire services. Fourth, the Economic Aid Fund. Fifth, local nature, forests, and national parks. Sixth, irrigation canals and drainage. Seventh, co-management of medical staff in health centers. The right-wing mayors declared that they were discontent with this list, saying that the government is not being clear about the decentralization and is passing responsibilities down to the local government. During the meeting, the Minister of Transport, Edmond Hajanasto, presented the water supply situation and declared that the losses are at 40%. The Minister of Energy, Damjanjik Nuri, declared that the accumulated debts in the energy system have reached 1.4 billion lek. After the recent developments in the Albanian parliament, culminating with the arrest of Armando Prenga and the resignation of Arben Ndoka, 2 important names for the Socialist Party, the Socialists have declared that there will soon be a law on decriminalization. The leaders who made this announcement, Socialist Group head Gramoz Ruci and the MP Taulant Bala, did not declare whether the law, which will prevent the incriminated from entering the assembly, will be a product of the special commission established for decriminalization. Mr. Ruci had this to say: "You are already aware that with the mediation of the international factor, the Parliament has established a special commission on the decriminalization process, which is headed by the opposition. The commission is not functional. It should have presented a finished product to the Parliament by now. The fight against crime and the decriminalization of the society is a reform that the Parliament has already undertaken. I think the Parliament will solve this problem." The Socialist MP Taulant Bala declared that before long, Albania will have very good legislation that will prevent the incriminated from holding public office. Their statements were made after a meeting of the Socialist Party branch in Elbasan to pave the way for the inter-party elections that will be held between September and January. The Supreme Court has given the order of prison custody for the Socialist MP Armando Prenga, who stands accused of illegal possession of firearms, deliberate injury, and threatening of life. Earlier today, the court gave the same order for Gazmir Yushi and Nicola Tsali. The court ordered obligation of appearance for Gjok Tsali and 1 month of prison for Anton Leka. All of these men were involved in the armed conflict in Lach, in which 7 people were injured. Prenga's lawyer made the statement today that there is no proof sufficient to leave his client in prison, and that there are no witnesses to prove that Prenga is guilty. "We do not prejudge the court, but the decision is not a fair one," said the lawyer of Armando Prenga. A week ago, the Ministry of Finance appealed to business owners to register their activities online in order to avoid waiting periods at the National Center of Registration. The business owners are now claiming that the online application is not working. There are still very long lines at the offices, and the owners are complaining that they go in the early hours of the morning and still do not finish the registration procedure by the end of the day. This has been the case since the government launched its operation against informality in the business sector. That concludes our edition for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Please be with us again tomorrow at the same time for more translated news in English. I hope you have a great night.